DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy, family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Against the Boards. I'm your host, Chamberlain Bauder, here for another week and back in the studio this week to talk about lacrosse and hockey around Western New York. And there's an elephant in the room that we need to address. So with that said, I'm going to start off by just reminding everyone I've covered the Knighthawks for 3.5 years. I had 1 year away where I worked for the Bandits as an intern while finishing my college degree. And I've been covering the Knighthawks this past season ever since. I've watched them grow into the playoff team that they are. And now I've also seen, as a season ticket holder throughout that period of time, along with my father, that the marketing budget that the team has had has never been anything to the scale that the Buffalo Bandits are able to operate with. That's from directly having seen it now on both sides. And finally, that came to a head in this last week when the COO of the Rochester Knighthawks came out and announced that the Pegula Sports and Entertainment Group, which doesn't exist anymore, but the Pegula family will no longer be running the Rochester Knighthawks organization. The NLL came out with a statement as well, just about an hour after that, coming out and saying that they are actively looking for new ownership now in the Rochester area with the intention and goal to keep Rochester lacrosse, keep professional lacrosse in Rochester long term. We're just going to kind of talk about everything that we know with this statement as a whole. Obviously, it's all of the extra jargon that kind of comes with this, but my main takeaway from this official statement is that Brett Fruit has every intention to keep a professional lacrosse team in Rochester. We're talking about an NLL commissioner who has come out when he became the commissioner and said some of his first lacrosse memories were literally in Blue Cross Arena watching the Knighthawks play. It is a staple of the National Lacrosse League, and we'll get into that more in a second, but this is a commissioner who clearly has an emotional connection to Rochester lacrosse and understands how deep and rich the history is. He clearly does not want to, in that statement to me, does not want lacrosse to leave Rochester. So, other statements that come along with that, I was on Twitter for 2.5 hours last night, searching in different keywords pertaining to lacrosse, Rochester, everything, trying to find out any information. Actively going through certain people's profiles to see if they've ever tweeted anything of note before their random comments on things. Really, the only thing that was major that I felt like I could pull out of that was Gene Battaglia's tweets, obviously from the fan in Rochester. He tweeted that a source within the Knighthawks locker room confirmed that the team was told about an hour before the announcement on Monday was made, and that they were told, quote, the league is working hard to keep the team in Rochester. So to me, when I hear that, I mean, obviously they're going to say that in one sense, but then at the same time, it's just the realistic fact of, are you really going to relocate a team that has been in the playoffs for 3 straight years, is one of only 4 teams in the National Lacrosse League to make the playoffs for the last 3 straight years, and currently has the National Lacrosse League's MVP. It's more likely that you're going to relocate them than what the alternative is that we're going to talk about in a little bit here. But how do you just up and move on from a team that has created this success? My thing in my mind, and this is what I was saying to my dad when I first heard it, was at the very least, how is the NLL going to tell Dan Carey, who's already won General Manager of the Year, that he's just not a general manager anymore? Like, it's one thing for Panther City with not a lot of success, clearly limited fan success, and just not a great hotbed of lacrosse that they're in for box lacrosse to take off. It's one thing for that team to fold and hold the dispersal draft and go through that. It is a whole other thing for a team that has been clearly building towards success over the last 5 years and had a clear plan in place and has earned accolades from the league now at an executive level, on a player level, and is making it to the playoffs. How are you just going to stop that team from existing? It just sounds, to me, it seems a bit crazy and a little bit insane. So when I think about this whole situation and how it can possibly play out, I think the thing that we have to remember on the Nighthawk side of things is that at the end of the day, whether or not the Nighthawks stay in Rochester is not due to the Pagulas anymore. And I mean, yes, it will be technically their, if the team moves and if it folds, it will be their fault because they decided they didn't want to own it anymore. Sure, we can say, I mean, that is as simple as it is. But it is on how possible it is for the league to find another owner to buy into the NLL, not buying into Rochester. I think they have the ownership in place with everybody that's around that league, that someone else could be the one to come to Rochester and exist from there. However, I just think it comes down to whether or not the NLL can get another major investor to come into their league and be a majority owner. And if that can happen, I think that there will still be a team in Rochester come the 25-26 season. So, now, with that said, let's have a little bit of a conversation about the argument for Rochester staying a lacrosse town. And I feel like there's not that much that needs to be stated in this argument. First things first, it's the third longest tenured lacrosse town in the NLL, period, behind Philadelphia and Buffalo. At 31 years, there's been a lacrosse team in Rochester. They have 5 championships. Until this year, they were the only team ever to three-peat. And now, of course, those two teams are just 2 hours away from each other, and Rochester's new era has been trying to build back to a point where they could be like the old Nighthawks versus, could you imagine if we still had the old Nighthawks facing off with this Bandit squad right now? I mean, the Thunderbirds almost made the finals at the end of the day, but I mean, whatever, different conversation. But it's just the Nighthawks a team being in Rochester is good for the NLL in the sense of the history that has been there and the hotbed of lacrosse that Rochester and the Finger Lakes is, and it is the last professional lacrosse team that is there. There's not a pro lacrosse team in Syracuse. You have to go to either Albany or Buffalo, and when it comes to the Finger Lakes, that is a 3-hour drive either way. Rochester needs a team if you want to continue to reward hotbeds of lacrosse for being hotbeds of lacrosse. What we're seeing in the PLL that's frustrating a whole lot of lacrosse stands and lacrosse fans right now is that they don't embrace that hotbed mentality all the time. Sometimes it's because those hotbeds don't give them the fans to watch the games. But in this situation, right now, it's been a steady growth. If we look at attendance numbers throughout the National Lacrosse League for this season, yes, the Nighthawks are in the bottom half of that conversation. But when it comes to all of the teams that are currently building right now, I mean, the teams that are above them, the only teams that stand out as maybe an oddball situation to me is Philadelphia. All of those other organizations are in markets in Canada so Colorado has been figuring it out in Denver for a while now, for whatever reason it may be. They pack out Ball Arena. They're third on that list, and Buffalo being first, everyone obviously knows the situation with them, but every other team that's Philadelphia, 36 years in the National Lacrosse League. Of course, they're going to be up there in the attendance numbers as well. But then it's Saskatchewan, Vancouver, Halifax, and Calgary, which when it comes to lacrosse's hotbeds in Canada, those 4 teams have been able to generate the buzz in Halifax. I mean, really, when they went to Halifax, they just figured it out with their niche of college students in that market. And obviously, as Rochester fans would know, Kurt Stiers knows how to market a lacrosse team. I wonder where he got all of the experience to be able to make a program successful so quickly. I really wonder where that came from. But anyways, Knighthawks are 8th on the list of attendance. If you find the chart, that's the big broken down one. I'm currently looking at one that's total home attendance, total road attendance, average home attendance, average road attendance, and totals. I don't think that anyone should take the road attendance numbers into account, because at the end of the day, some of these teams have such skewed numbers that if you had Buffalo and Calgary away on your schedule, you automatically have significantly boosted away numbers on your averages. Just the number of games that they play doesn't really allow for that to congruently show a good number. And now, with that said, the argument can also be made, and it shouldn't be shut down, that Rochester's numbers look better. I mean, they're only 20 numbers average higher than Ottawa. There's probably an argument Ottawa had more fans in seats consistently than Rochester, because Rochester obviously packed out for Bandits when the Bandits came. Someone's going to make that argument on Twitter. I just want to shut it down right now. You know what I mean? It is very possible, but at the end of the day, the consistency has been constantly improving, and that is without anywhere near the marketing budget of any of the other NLL teams that have only one owner, or, the Bandits. So, with that said, ultimately, one, what does a Rochester Knighthawks look like with a true marketing and devoted ownership when the team success is clearly there and the individual accolades have been presented by the league to the team? What can be done to I mean, there's nothing that can be done other than finding someone now that can come in and own the team. And that ultimately will come down to the league, because the Pagulas have come out and said, it's not going to be us. Which, the worrying part with that to me is that there's been these rumors around whether or not Rochester is going to relocate or move. And it seems like those rumors come from the fact that the Pagulas have been attempting to shop the Knighthawks. There's no confirmation of this. This is just, the situation unfolding. The possibility of that is likely from them trying to shop the Knighthawks and nobody biting if they didn't sell it, obviously. So now it comes down to whether or not the league can sell it. And I guess we'll ultimately just have to kind of wait and see. But with that, the timeline, the dispersal draft isn't a thing that would happen, in a week. And let's talk about the dispersal draft situation, because I think that's being talked about a lot heavier than maybe it should be. Because first of all, that would not, the team disbanding and them deciding we couldn't find an owner would not come until late summer, probably before mid-August, it was my guess. They would potentially push back the free agency period like they did last year with the dispersal draft, and then keep delaying it. You cannot tell me that you're going to put 2 of the top 5 players in the league in points in a dispersal draft for the National Lacrosse League this year. That's insane. That would be idiotic. It would be completely idiotic. There are literally 5 guys on that team in the top 25 in the league in points. Every single member of that starting offense would start on any team in the National Lacrosse League. Literally anyone. I think the Bandits would even take back Connor Fields at this point. Even if he plays the same game as Josh Byrne, they'd be like, sure, we don't have enough lefties right now. Why not take the outside shots? Maybe Ian McKay could play a little bit more defense again. Not that they really want him to do that. But, the idea of this team completely being dispersed is insane to me. The idea of Dan Carey not being a general manager in the National Lacrosse League is insane to me. Mike Hazen is top 3 in the NLL in all-time wins, and he's just not going to be a coach. That sounds insane to me. Of course, that's also how it felt in 2018 when it all happened, right? But at the end of the day, this is going to be a developing story. Obviously, we're going to keep talking about it as we get more and more information. But right now, Knighthawks are in jeopardy. And I might just go crawl into a cave and never come out. Who knows? It's too many lacrosse teams leaving Rochester for me right now. It's really sad. It sucks a lot. I feel like I should have brought my Rattlers helmet in to put on the table here for today. That would have really made the statement kind of come to full circle in full light there. But yeah. So Knighthawks stuck right now, trying to get as much information as I can. A lot of my sources aren't allowed to say anything right now, obviously, because I have official sources. So it's just been digging and trying to find literally any inkling. But at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of things are in this world now, and we've seen a lot with the PLL and the way that they're generating money from companies. Sometimes the only way to succeed in a small area with low interest in a market in a sport that doesn't have the numbers is a person with a lot of money that is here for the idea. So I guess the NLL needs to go out and find more of those people. Now, with that said, we're going to keep it on the Pegula train for a second, because as of last night, Sabres fans will know, I don't know how many of you are left, that JJ Peterka has been traded to the Utah Mammoth for Josh Doan and Michael Kesselring. And I don't really care that that's what the Sabres got, because honestly, JJ Peterka was the last shining light to me of this entire Sabres team, and I'm so over it now at this point. I mean, I'm obviously we're going to talk about the team and we're going to talk about the Amerks next year and everything, but when it comes to success stories out of the Rochester Americans that the Buffalo Sabres have had, obviously Yuri Kulik is starting to look like he will be the one, but before Yuri Kulik could run, it was JJ Peterka walking. And then running into the career that he's now had with the Buffalo Sabres and the 5-year contract extension that he just got from the Utah Mammoth. And yeah, cool. There's a farm in Buffalo. There's a lot of farms in Buffalo, actually. It's upstate New York. It makes a lot of sense, at the end of the day, that's how that would work. But sad to see JJ Peterka go. I guess I'm going to be watching a lot of late night hockey next year. Honestly. Yeah. Pretty cool colors too. I like stealing the colors from another team. But that light blue is going to look good. I don't know. Kind of feels like the Atlas colors a little bit. I can embrace it. Feels like the teal, I wore this in solidarity today for the Knighthawks, but I guess I can also claim it as Utah now. But so Sabres obviously don't want to re-sign restricted free agent JJ Peterka. That's the situation there. So getting something out of that for him, and I'm intrigued personally what the conversation about a pick swap was, or how possible that was for anything with that. Right before the draft to go with a player-only trade seems a little bizarre to me. But ultimately, that is how it shakes out for the Buffalo Sabres. All right. That's hockey talk for us. It was short. We've been off the hockey topic for a little bit. It's been a heat wave in New York this week. I'm not going to talk about hockey that much. I can't think about it. It's just doesn't happen during this week. The ice would melt. You'd be playing water polo instead. But as we transition back to lacrosse, it really was a heat wave all across the U.S. last weekend, as anybody that watched the Premier Lacrosse League on Saturday got to see players putting their lacrosse sticks in buckets of ice and spraying their cleats with their water bottles instead of drinking their water, because their cleats were literally melting on the field, which is just crazy. Absolutely insane that it was that hot. Temperatures on the field were 110 real feel, I think they said, on Saturday during the games. And on Friday, when they played the first game of the day, it was also up there in temperature. I think it was real feel about 100, and the temperature on the field was 91. Hot days for lacrosse, and yet still some outrageous performances. We got to start with, of course, we're only going to really talk about our New York connections here, but we start with the team from New York, because in a game that I really thought was going to be the Philadelphia Water Dogs just continuing to roll under Bill Tierney's system now, instead, we saw Liam Entenmann absolutely stand on his head and Jeff Teat figure his things out quite a bit on the offensive side of things. And my oh my, did the Atlas absolutely have their way with the Philadelphia Water Dogs. 17-9. Jeff Teat ends with 5 goals and 3 assists, and Liam Entenmann sets a new career record for games in a single game. He had 22. He was 71% in this game. And, first of all, sick graphic. But these saves, don't be fooled. Big time foot save right there on the heel. Almost fooled my producer, Paul Russo, on that one. But there is, in fact, a nice, beautiful foot save on Jack Hanna for the double there. He had a flurry of impressive ones. I think the coolest thing to me about watching Liam Entenmann play goalie, and this is from someone who likes to talk a lot about the fundamentals of goalie play and where you see the impressive feats. What is so awesome about Liam Entenmann is how he tracks the ball with his hands. You can see that top hand. We'll watch this one more time. That top hand punches up. He's trying to get to the ball with his hand, not his stick, because he knows that at the end of the day, the ball is going to move faster than his hand is, and so his stick will be the thing that gets to the ball and not his hands. And if we watch the one before that, actually, real quick, also, on this one, it's the switch. It's to the offside. He's obviously right-handed. He's getting to that near post on this one, and he's punching across his body with his hands to make that save. It's just insane fundamentals, an insane ability to anticipate shots, but it's also knowing his own ability that, technically speaking, his reaction time, no matter what, no matter how good it is, will be slower than how fast the ball moves. So he has to overreact, and he makes these insane saves. And then sometimes he makes saves like he did at Notre Dame, where he's literally making the save with his fist. He's made saves on the stick, because when you think about it, if your thought is the fist, where the line of that stick is also going to make a save. It's just he plays his own form of lacrosse. It just looks, and to me, it is just perfect goalie play when I watch him play. It is so awesome. The other thing that's just cool about the PLL is you get all of these different goalies and different styles of play. Obviously, Blaze Reardon has a very interesting style. We're going to talk about that a little bit in a second. But really what is, to me, I feel like Entenmann is coming into this position of being able to take over that mantle from Blaze as the best goalie in the PLL and potentially the future of, is he the best goalie ever? I think right now Blaze is, in my mind, personally, given my lifespan of watching lacrosse, has been a lot of Blaze Reardon. I was at the Cornell game. I was in the bathroom when it happened, but I was at the Cornell game when he scored that goalie goal for the Albany. But I think he's the greatest goalie ever. I think Entenmann has the chance to overtake him as the greatest goalie ever. But he's just so different as a goalie than Blaze is, because, like I said, his game is so fundamental to me. Liam Entenmann's is, whereas Blaze is this very unorthodox foot and body save kind of goalie. Liam Entenmann's stick is his best friend, and he makes every save with it. Even his foot saves still have a certain stick positioning that's drawing the shooter to take the shot at his foot, and he can make that save. He is so fun to watch. And honestly, like, Jeff Teat had 8 points in this game. He scored 5 goals. That was also sick. Nothing to me was cooler than how Liam Entenmann played this entire game. It was awesome to watch. So that was game 1 of the weekend in Maryland. Game 2 was an equally amazing game Or no, it was a cooler game because it was closer, obviously, but also another record being broken. In this one, it was the Cornell man of Rob Pannell setting the all-time PLL and MLL assist record. Tied it and broke it on the night with 2 assists. And then, of course, the next day had a boatload more, and we'll talk about that in a second. But there's the first one to tie Ryan Boyle at 292 all-time assists. Of course, where else would Rob Pannell be to set it up except from X, lofting that one over the top? And then on the game, or his record breaker, trying to draw his man, gets it to Matt Brandow on the crease for a quick stick finish, and there is the record all to his own. And I have to say, I kind of love that he's doing it in red at this point, and he got that record with some red on instead of just being in a California Redwoods jersey for that one. But it was pretty awesome to see the number of apples that we would have for Rob Pannell. It's quite a few. Kind of looks like the state of Utah or something like that, honestly, over there. But I mean, the career that he's had has been absolutely insane. And then he also finally broke the goal scoring drought too, which was major for him. He's been in a little bit of a slump lately, but that Cannons Whipsnakes game was absolutely awesome. First of all, Cannons for me are one of my favorite teams to watch. I won't lie. I just love the Holman culture that team has as a whole. And when it comes to watching them play, I really enjoy the physicality that they play with. Some people don't. I get that. I love it, though. Also, Graydon Hogg on that team right now, of course, for Rochester Knighthawk fans. But so they come out with the win in this one, but Whipsnakes made it really, really interesting in that fourth quarter. They outscored the Cannons 4-1, scored the last 4 goals of the game, trying to come back in the end, and just could not get it done ultimately. But that game was sick to watch for any lacrosse fan. TJ Malone is awesome. He might be my pick for PLL MVP for this season right now at this point, but I'm personally finding joy watching almost every team in the PLL this season, which is something that I haven't always been able to say. I just haven't watched a lot of Whipsnakes games before this year. I think Rob Pannell being there is helping me. This is the first time that I've enjoyed really watching Whipsnakes games is this season. Chaos are still a little tough to watch. Denver's on the right track now, and we'll talk about them right now next because the Outlaws completely shocked the Archers, scoring the last 7 goals and last 8 points of their game against the back-to-back champs. A 13-10 win, and wow, Jared Bernhardt figured it out, guys. He's got the shooting stroke, and I'm just going to say, if you are a PLL fan and you're putting together a fantasy squad, he's only 23 points right now to put right in there, so I would definitely go for it. But Bernhardt figured it out, gets 4 goals and an assist. I mean, and really figured it out in the second half of that game. All of his points, or 3 of his 4 goals and his assist, all in that back stretch of those 7 goals in that game. A major part of that, he got moved down to attack. And so the attack line at that point was Wisnauskas, Kavanaugh, Bernhardt, moving O'Neill into the midfield. My thought on this team is that Justin Anderson gets way too many touches right now. And that's still my take after watching that game, honestly. I mean, I looked through the way that team went, and ultimately he had 12 touches in that game and took 2 shots. It wasn't as much as he's gotten a lot before, but I feel like I watched the ball die in Justin Anderson stick a lot in the middle of the field. When you have 4 Tourton winners on the field at the same time, I feel like you should probably try to operate through their sticks a lot more, and everything should be driven towards getting a short stick onto one of them and then playing that matchup. They should be forcing every team to play zone against them. I don't know how that's not already happening like at all. But yeah, I mean, this Outlaws team is definitely starting to figure it out a little bit more, but Brennan O'Neill got absolutely shut down by Graham Hossack in that game. O'Neill had 2 assists for his points in that game, 10 shots, no goals, 39 touches, 28 passes, 1 turnover. I mean, given, I guess, at the end of the day, though, all of those shots that aren't goals kind of are turnovers. But, I mean, he got shut down by Graham Hossack. It was a clinic that Graham put on out there. And, I mean, he puts on a clinic every week. He's definitely one of the best defenders in the league. He should, though, probably be suspended for that hit on Chris Kavanaugh. That was absolutely insane and egregious. And someone should probably be talking about that still. But Outlaws really start to figure it out. But it's interesting. The other thing that I found interesting, last time I talked about the Outlaws, there were a couple things. I just need to clarify. At no point did I say that Logan McNaney shouldn't play for them this year. I just said that I didn't think after 2 games Owen McElroy had completely lost the job. But Logan McNaney definitely walked in and won the job within 10 minutes of being in the game. So no doubt now they have the right situation. But at the end of the day, when you've got a guy that couldn't have been there on the first week of the games because he was playing in the national championship, he's not going to play in week 1, and he's probably not going to play in week 2. So he gets into week 3, and now the dude is rolling, and I love it. It is. We got to talk about Logan McNaney. He's from Cortland. He's another one of our upstate guys that we can invest our time into. And, of course, he's playing for the former Rochester Rattlers. So we're going to take that for the win that it is. I mean, he's just, he might be definitely is in the conversation, going to be for Rookie of the Year. No idea what the odds would look like on that right now, but I mean, he's got to be a strong favorite for that at this point. Just what he's immediately walked in 2 games now, 2 wins for him. Of course, in my mind, when I think about it, that first game, no, the Water Dogs game was an interesting one. That defense really did shut down the Water Dogs a lot, but 2 games, both of them over 60%, both of them 14 saves at least. He had 16 against the Archers. It's just great performances from a rookie, and he doesn't look like one at all. And the line from Quint Kesnich last week, which awesome analyst to have talk about a goalie, obviously is another former goalie. He just looks like a PLL goalie, and that is 100% accurate. He does. He just looks comfortable in cage, like he's been there forever, and he knows exactly what to do. And that makes sense. His defensive coordinator for the last 5 years is literally one of his polls. Kind of helps. I would guess that kind of helps, honestly. So yeah, awesome stuff from the Outlaws. Luke Weirman doing his thing at the face-off dot. I mean, really, ultimately, Mike Sisselberger having kind of a tough year right now for when we talk about our Knighthawks playing. It's just not been, he has not found matchups this year. It's been a lot of just other guys that have been kind of overperforming against him. Connor Fields was the point leader for the Archers in that game. Their offense really, I don't know what it was, but they've been falling a little bit stagnant. And Connor Fields kind of found a different role from his field game. He had 3 assists in this game. This is something that I kind of wanted to talk about before, but he just didn't have a great week the last time that I was on, so I didn't really feel like we should talk about it. But I think this is something that we could really see from Fieldsy developing as his game goes on through this season, is more of those 1 goal or 2 goals, and then he's going to start drawing that top matchup and feeding. I mean, we see him do it in the NLL all the time. It makes complete sense. And if they were to start trying to run their offense through him a little bit more and let Schreiber be kind of a secondary passer in situations, or that slide guy, let you run out of your attack a little bit more, I think that could be beneficial to them. I don't think that Connor has been given the opportunity to show the type of facilitator that he can be on the field instead of in the box. And I think he's arguably one of the best, could be one of the best in the PLL. if given the opportunity to do so. So I don't think this is a fluke game when he had 1 goal and 3 assists. I think this is very possibly what could be the trend, but he could just as easily create 3 goals out of nothing by driving right to the crease and scoring on a fake shot high, going low while diving, because he's that athletic and can do that type of stuff. There's a reason that he's the NLL MVP, right? There is the first game from Saturday. That was when we saw the melting cleats and the lacrosse. They literally had the Gatorade ice coolers, like for water bottles to go into, just full of ice, and they just had sticks shoved into it. It was really funny to look at. The last game of Saturday, obviously Saturday night lacrosse, was the Maryland Whipsnakes bludgeoning of the Carolina Chaos. And that's where we're going to talk real quick about Blaze Reardon. His unorthodox playing style just did not look good in this game, ultimately. And obviously nobody's going to look good when they go 30% for save percentage. But, I mean, really just, it was bad. It was, the second quarter especially was really when it was at its peak, I think, in this game when it came to like that, the pain. 8 goals for Maryland in that quarter. And I mean, it was over at halftime. There was no doubt about that, but it was fun to watch Maryland succeed on the back half of a doubleheader because they were the first team in the PLL this season now to do that, and win the second game. Obviously, they didn't win their first game, so every team now has gone 1-1 on their homecoming weekends this season, which is an interesting thing to note. But they're the first team to win the Saturday game, and that was also due to Stagnita realizing he needed to make changes to that lineup to play another game on the next day. Bringing in Levi Anderson for Matt Rambo, bringing in Carroll for Krebs in goal. Carroll definitely earned that starting job after the game that he played, I think, also against the Chaos. But at the same time, it's that kind of conversation that we had earlier about the Redwoods with their game against the Archers. Like, was that because it was the Chaos, or is this a good game? When you go over 70%, I don't think it's just because a team is bad. You have to have some sort of skill to go over 70% in goal. Dude had 17 saves. Like, it was a great performance. He's big goalie, takes up a lot of the cage, definitely for the Whips. But ultimately, a tough spot for the Chaos. And my other, fantasy tip or betting tip at this point, if you can find a way to put anything on people playing against the Chaos's short stick D middies, do it, because they are right now the worst defensive group in the entire PLL, unfortunately for them. And they've just been, they could have had Ian McKay this year with that group, lost a lot of guys to free agency, but they're just trying to rebuild over there right now, and it is not up to a standard at the moment because every team has now realized that they can fully just take advantage of the shorties. If you watched that game, you saw every Maryland huddle for an offensive timeout. Stagnita would just ask, okay, who's going to get the shorty? And that's how they would run their offense. And that's all that they would have to do. So obviously something needs to get figured out there in a personnel sense. But that is that last weekend of the PLL. Of course, coming up this weekend now, it will be in San Diego before the All-Star break. Denver taking on the California Redwoods off of their bye on Friday. Then the Archers and the Atlas facing off for some late night lacrosse at 11:30 on Friday night. I'm definitely going to push through and stay up for that one. I might fall asleep in the fourth quarter. We'll see. It's been a while. I haven't made it through a Sunday night football game in a long time, if that tells you anything about the way that I go. So we might have to watch the rerun of that one in the morning and then keep going with the Sunday slate of games. But ultimately, Archers really interest the storylines there, of course. What's the Connor Fields offense look like? How does he play, after a tough loss for the team as a whole? Can he is he going to be the one that tries to put the team on his back in any way, or is that maybe more Tom Schreiber's role for the team? And then meanwhile, how do the Atlas bounce back with their current inconsistencies that they've been playing with? They've been just hot and cold and hot and cold. Can they stack some wins together here is the question. And of course, it comes against a tough opponent. Same question for the Outlaws. Ultimately, I think right now it's, can they keep building on this? Can they keep rolling? And for the Redwoods, coming off of a bye, they want to just be present and be immediate with their actions as they play against the squad. Saturday slate of games, Philly's got to find a way out of the rut that they've suddenly found themselves in now. Bit of a scoring slump for them in their last two games between that Denver game and that New York game. They got to find where the goals need to come from and who needs to get touches at key moments. And then for California, they're going to be on their second half of the back-to-back. It'll be interesting, really, to me, based on how the first game goes, how the second one goes for them. But at the end of the day, I am just going to be intrigued to see when we will eventually see a homecoming team sweep their weekend. We haven't seen it yet. I have no idea when we're going to see it. But I don't know. The Outlaws seem like they're in a different place right now, and I don't know if we're necessarily going to see the Redwoods be the team to do that. Then Cannons Chaos. If Maryland beat up on the Chaos the way that they did last week, I'm scared to see what this game is going to be like. Actually. And for a team that runs through their midfield the way that the Cannons do, oh my God. Yeah, it could be scary. It could actually be like, we might see some champ series type scores come out of the series, come out of that game. Like the Cannons literally might hit 30. If Blaze doesn't have if Blaze doesn't set another single game record for saves, I think that the Cannons will score more than 20 goals in this game. And that sets up the weekend before they head into the All-Star break, of course, there for that one. So that's the PLL. That is everything in lacrosse and hockey for this week. Of course, JJ Peterka gone, me and my feels, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, because we just got to, at this point, wait for more information to come out on the Knighthawks situation. Obviously, in 4 days, the Pegula family will no longer operate the Rochester Knighthawks. Now we just got to find out if someone else will. I guess that's really all we can hope for, right? At the end of the day, let's look on the bright side here. If another ownership group does come into Rochester and keeps them in Rochester, there will probably be a harder push for marketing than they had before. But it is going to be interesting to see if that happens, because now you won't have the same payroll that can give you the support staff from the Amherst as the support staff for the Knighthawks. They're going to have a completely different group that comes in and does all of that. They're likely going to have to have a different office space or setup, or have a different contract set up with VenueWorks. A lot of different things that could be kind of going on with that. So still a lot of questions. As we get more answers, we'll give them to you. But for this week of Against the Boards, thanks to my producer, Paul Russo, I've been Chamberlain Bauder. We'll see you next time.